take the two and mate them. What's up guys? Jordan from Bennett's Customs. We're back on another episode. We are currently working on the Roadster at the moment behind me. So what I want to do is put this skin on this door. What I need to do is add some corners, kind of similar to the factory corner that it would have had. Reason being why we couldn't have had that on before is because we did have to shrink a lot of this area. So now I'll just run kind of a straight edge off this one where they meet. We'll weld a nice little piece in there. I've just kind of gone around, cleaned up the edge, hammered and dollied it, tried to get it as straight as possible. A few areas I need to weld here. This back section where the kind of latch would go, it's obviously ripped out. It has one of these kind of like little welded nuts. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those, so I'm gonna have to improvise, make something work. Unfortunately, I have a set of door handles that are really nice, but they are not the ones I need. The ones I need are here, they're soaking. I'm trying to see if I can make them work because I do want to run the external door handle because there is the provision for it right there. Once these are all welded, everything's kind of looking straight, then I can kind of test fit the door and we can possibly start to get that thing installed. So I'd love in this episode to make this and that join each other and potentially put it back on the Roadster and see if we can get it to line up and latch properly. Obviously, you need to take into consideration that the body is not bolted down. I will have to do a little bit of tweaking here and there when it comes to. Profile's kind of looking good. It's coming together, sitting in the corner. We have been working on this guy here. I've showed you that. Those are still sitting there at the moment. We will tackle lots on that soon. And there's still a fair few things I want to do to that before she is off to its new owner. We don't know that new owner yet. Optimistic thinking. Hopefully someone maybe overseas will be interested in it and we can kind of help with organizing the shipping and all that. But yeah, it'd be really cool to see it goes to a good home and then we can build something different. So what I'm going to do is obviously need to kind of run like this piece on here, but because it kind of runs into nothing, it's going to be super difficult to weld that because there won't be much material. So I'm going to actually leave quite a bit of material off the edge that I can kind of cut afterwards in order to line it up with the door edge. I'm even going to go kind of past where I know the straight edge is, like ultimately it starts kind of here. I'm gonna weld it to about here and have a fair bit of meat on both sides so that when I cut into this area and kind of make it the same, there'll be material there in order to remove, but I need the material there to purely to weld it. So there's enough there to be able to put it to. So what I'm just gonna roughly cut this out. Well, actually, I can scribe this, really, scribe this obviously. And then, yeah, once I cut that out, then I can kind of butt weld this edge, and then we'll have this overhang sitting like that. And all this file's doing is it's just cleaning up the area where we've obviously stretched this material. So it's kind of got you know, like a bit of a rough edge to it. So I want it to be a nice, clean, consistent edge, and that way when we weld it, it's just nicer. Have a bit more material there on the edge to kind of weld to. To get as close to that as possible. So what I'll probably do with the grinder is just get close to it, and then we can kind of get in there maybe with the sander and sand as close as we can to that edge. And we can take this piece, put it on there, weld it on, trim it. We'll do this side. Once those are done, a few more little areas we need to address up there, and then we can kind of get close. So let's cut this up. Okay, so we got our piece cut and trimmed, it's mounted. We got a real consistent kind of, what do you call it? Spacing, I suppose. It's probably not a word. Yeah, spacing. Consistent gap all the way around, there is no gap. So what I'm gonna do now is we're just gonna weld this in, and then we can trim it to fit. So it's welded in, simple pass, still quite flat. So now what I'll do is I'll just grind this down a little bit. We'll remove that top of the weld, dress it, and then we can kind of trim it to fit. Okay, so this is the front side. You can see it's welded in. Back side, same deal. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna run my ruler along this edge, try and match that. We're just gonna scribe this, trim it off, clean it up, job done. If I had tried to weld that in the exact spot, like that comes right down to nothing. So you would just melt that away. So this way you just give yourself a little bit extra, and then you can kind of sit there and you know, work it afterwards. So we just have that tiny little piece on there, and that kind of replicates the same style. So we just need to do the same to here. And then, yeah, we're getting closer. So I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit with the sander. All right, so we got our corners finished off, which I'm really happy about. And now I'm just kind of working on a few areas here. There was a big massive crack, so I was able to fill it with a bit of silicon bronze and blend that out. Another really big one here, kind of where the hinge sits in. And this is sort of the bit we're trying to address, is this big crack and kind of missing hole that would usually have one of these, I don't know what you'd call it. It's just like a welded in nut, let's call it for now. There's a name for it. I've said it before. It's not coming to me. One of these guys here. So I need to try and I'm going to bolt this in now, and then I'm just going to see what needs to be done on the back side. I might even be able to weld like a little piece of flat bar, and I can just drill and tap it. It doesn't need to be anything perfect. I'm not going to try and like fully restore this and everything. I'm just going to try and get a little tack on there, and whatever I can do to make this work. You won't even see it. I just want to make sure it's strong. Okay, I'm gonna just try and get a little bit of silicon bronze right in this corner. It's gonna be dirty, it probably won't work. Probably will do a burn through, but I might be able to just get a little tack on it. All right, let's see if I can just do this real quick. Shit, yeah, got it. That silicon bronze is really nice to kind of chase if you are kind of worried about an area. It burns at a lower temperature. MIG wire is still totally fine. I just kind of like the way I'm able to kind of get it in there. So realistically, what I need to do is I need to create one of these little pieces. I need to make a tiny little piece of steel. I need to drill a hole. I need to tap it to that 10-30 seconds. And then I can just weld it on the back side here. All right, so all I'm doing is just got a little bit of flat bar here, and I'm just going to try and tap it. And then once it's tapped, I'm just gonna cut a little piece out. I'm gonna hold it on there. I'm gonna screw it on, and then I'm gonna tack that into place. I think I need to go up on my drill bit size as well. Okay, so this is what we got. We got our little flat bar with our little drill. It's tapped. It holds our latch hardware, which is perfect. So now I just need to get this into place. I got the backside all cleaned up. And then what I'm gonna do is just kind of hold this in place where it's gonna sit comfortably. I'm gonna try and get rid of that little tack there. So you can see what I've done. I've kind of just made a little piece to kind of tack in there. Is job done. It's not the most prettiest thing, but it's okay. It's gonna do exactly what we need it to do. All right, so this is kind of like a loose mock-up, making sure everything's kind of fitting properly. I've just had to kind of jam the door up a little bit, but it's more or less just where everything's gonna sit. And if I was kind of happy with that, the overall setup should be good and work properly, which is a great thing. So what I would like to do is get the skin on, and then we can kind of essentially it'd be nice to have the body sitting dead level. May even could potentially like stick it on the ground. Concrete's nice and flat. Make sure it latches that way. And then, you know, where we need to kind of tweak a few areas like this, if that's tweaked in and, you know, we know that's kind of where it's going to go, then I can kind of tweak it and then like tack one side to kind of hold everything properly. But yeah, I'm definitely, it's going to take a little bit. Probably at the bottom, I could pull that bottom kind of flange in a little. All right, one thing I want to make sure putting these skins together is I need to make sure we have a really nice clean edge all the way around. So when we roll that edge over, we have something to tack to. Some guys don't even tack them. They just kind of hammer them over and they're good to go. But I think in our case, I might want to have a few holes to just run a couple spot welds if need be, just to like try and tweak it. So you know how it was sitting on the door, if I need to kind of pull it this way, I could kind of stretch it out that way and do 2 tacks and it'll kind of hold its memory. As well as the inside upper flange, this piece here, this gets kind of rolled over and it actually gets tacked onto here as well. So I want to make sure that this is really clean in the areas where we're going to try and get a little spot weld on there. This is pretty rough, but hopefully if I can even just get on the edge, I'll probably just try and clean this up too with the wire wheel and make sure it's nice and clean on the inside and outside. It's already painted on the side, so I just want to make sure where there's paint, we probably won't have any. I'll probably remove the paint from the edge just so that we can fold it right over. And then once the door skin is on there and everything's in place, we've mocked it up on the door and I'm happy with it, I'm probably going to take a bit of that pour 15 and I'll just pour it in the hole, and then I can kind of just run it back and forth and it'll get right down in that seam and kind of hopefully seal it up a little bit. But I'm not too worried about it. We've kind of killed all the rust where we can. I'll put some Galmet in here as well, so I will, before just putting this on, we'll just clean this up. But I just put some Galmet in there and I actually sprayed it with the gun just so that it would kind of get in all the seams and in the little crevices that you can't get into with a brush. And that'll just kind of help, you know, try and stop a little bit of the rust that was in there and yeah, convert it. So we're just going to go along the edge, clean up, make sure everything's kind of tickety-boo where we need it to go, and then we're going to try and see how this thing's going to fit together. And I'm assuming first shot it's probably not going to want to go in together quite easily, so that's okay. I'm expecting that already just because of how badly damaged this was, so it'll take a little bit of tweaking, but yeah, fingers crossed we'll get it together.
And it's hard when nowhere feels like home, and it's hard when the world has gone crazy. Seems just like everything means nothing at all. He was laid off just last week, making parts for big machines that made a lot of fancy things that folks don't buy no more. And now he's in an old motel. Lately he don't sleep too well, holding down a darkness that he's never felt before. But some nights when it's getting late, a diner by the interstate serves him up a nice hot plate to fill him for a time. Cheryl's always working there, with big blue eyes and auburn hair. She treats him nice and seems to care about what's on his mind. But it's hard when you ain't got nobody. It's hard when nowhere feels like home. Yeah, it's hard when the world has gone crazy. Seems just like everything means nothing at all. We try with everything just to make it by. Yeah, we try, try with all our heart and soul just to feel alive. Cheryl says, will that be all? A jukebox plays a country waltz. Jim is feeling mighty tall and he asked her to dance. Yeah, Cheryl says, oh, I don't know, but round and round the floor they go, holding hands and dancing slow. Feels just like romance. But it's hard when you ain't got nobody. And it's hard when nowhere feels like home. And it's hard when the world has gone crazy. And it seems just like everything means nothing at all. Yeah, it seems just like everything means nothing.
Yes. I mean, look, we are realistically kind of ready to try and start to kind of hammer this over. So we could even clamp one side, start to roll the edge on the other side. I mean, this is sitting really nice here, which is good. So I'll be able to drill a hole. Could whack a few clecos in here just to hold it into place. Yeah, I might kind of start. Need to just start somewhere, and I can kind of work my way around it. All right, quick little thing I just whipped up. This is a fender mount piece from a Model A, just scrap that I had. And I've kind of just cut a little groove out with a grinder and then kind of just smooth it out as best as I can. I left one side relatively straight, 90 degrees, and this one kind of shoots off to a 45. And what I would like to do with this is actually use this to help me kind of run along and tap this edge down. Once we have it really close, I may make another one that's a little bit tighter, and then we can kind of work with that as well. So it's just kind of helping me, yeah, basically just kind of tap this in a little bit. I do notice that the edges in here are kind of sharp, so I'm going to try and just clean those up a little bit, maybe with a little file or a bit of emery tape, which I have somewhere.
Don't mind me, you can stay just as happy, I promise you won't tell.
Oh, okay, so it works better the opposite way. So it kind of, so this is kind of neat. I'm learning this. Hopefully you can see. So I'll try and get it as close as I can. I've spun it around. So rather than having it this way, because I was hitting it and it's kind of going, I've spun it. So now every time I hit it, it's pulling this bit like in that way, which is really cool. So it's kind of, I'm tapping it, it's going in, tapping it, it's going in, like that. So it might actually work. All right, so while the GoPro was charging, I was able to kind of basically get both edges fully pressed down. And how I did that was I did use that little tool that we were talking about, and I kind of used both sides. So the first side kind of initially pulled it in, and then when I flipped it over, it actually kind of hammered it down. So it started kind of at a 45, and then I'd flip this around, and then it would kind of bring it right down to that 90 degrees to the panel. And then I just put a dolly in the vise and kind of just ran over it, tried to get it nice and tight. It'd be nice to have a hammer that wasn't metal essentially, but it's okay. Like it's kind of doing the job it needs to be doing. I've kind of run it over to the car, which I'll do now with Ben, just for kind of like a light mock-up. I may even pull the body off and put it on the ground like I had mentioned, but it is starting to look like something, which is really nice. This door has never actually done this. So this bottom bit still definitely needs to go in. So that's where I was talking about how I can kind of tweak it a little bit, and then I might be able to actually tweak it, hold it into place, tack a few of those areas. Like there's a lot of movement in this, so even if I need to, I can kind of, you know, flex the door a little bit here and there with that not completely welded into the inner structure. What I do need to do though, before we kind of do any of that final stuff, is I still need to roll this edge. So Ben's just gonna kind of hold the camera. I'm gonna hit this over. You can kind of see how I'm doing it. You know, it essentially might not be the right way of going about it, but it's definitely working for what I need. It's nice and flat on the edge. There's no real distortion. The only thing is like on the edge where the old spot welds were that we've had to kind of break. That's just the kind of the weakest point coming into those corners. So you can kind of tell like where those are. So that's just, again, with the hammer and dolly work, just kind of trying to smooth those out. So what I'm gonna do is just run this line over. I've actually just kind of lightly went around, and I've, you know, like I can kind of press down on the inner panel to get the edge right in the corner of that seam. And then I'm just kind of tapping it over right on the edge. And right away, that's already started to bend that flange over, which is really nice. So you want to make sure like you're not trying to, you don't want to be hitting on this end too much, otherwise it'll kind of pull, like round this off, or it'll kind of pull it up. So that's where that tool kind of really helps. So I'm going to use the 45 degree facing this way. So when this hits down, it's going to run a line along here. You could even go a little bit larger if you needed. And I'm going to just do one pass all the way across, and then I'll run it again, and then I can spin this so that the 90 degree edge on here runs along that, and then we can kind of sit there on the hammer and dolly.
Hello, how are you? I'm living on the moon.
So you can see that the little edge in here, I could probably even tweak this a little bit more so it's not so sharp, and it's just kind of leaving those little dings. Some would say those little dents could be essentially stretching it a little bit. So that's where I kind of mentioned, like if you made one of these, it'd be great to make one out of nylon. You could make it a little bit wider. I've seen lots of guys do that before. Welding Speed Shop, he's got like a really nice one he uses when he does all his skins. So you can kind of get creative with little bits and pieces, but this is just kind of what I had laying around, so it kind of works.
Deep regret, oh, I am such a fool. A man who wanted quiet, so he went up to the moon. But now this precious solitude I once thought so sublime has changed my sense of what is real and what is in my mind. I think I hear the voices of my distant family, the laughter of my oldest friend. for years I haven't seen. I know that that's impossible, I tell myself each day, but nothing stops those growing sounds, they will not go away. But no one comes here for me, which was my own cruel design. There's nothing left but dusty dreams and memories and time.
All right, so we got it nice and straight. Probably a little whoop right there I can kind of just work with, but the panel, you know, really kind of comes in and rolls around that edge quite nice. We got a nice consistent kind of bead or edge all the way around, which is really good. One thing I want to do is just go over to the car and just see how it fits. So we'll just go over and kind of hold it up, and then what I might do is actually stick the hinges back on, as well as the door latch itself, and we may even connect the door handles to it too, and then we can kind of play around with it.
What do you reckon, Josh?
Josh is back again over there eating. Always eating. The only thing we have to kind of figure out is once we get that latch and everything in, we got this bit here. So I can feel that that's got a bit of resistance. So that purely could be coming down to the way I put the panel in. Maybe it doesn't have enough curve. Maybe it's got too much curve. If Ben goes to the back side, you can see that if we did have it in and we have it there, it's quite consistent. Maybe just a little bit of hammer and dolly work on this bottom bit to kind of follow the body. But it's kind of cool. It's nice to just stand back and go, that door originally was so hammered that it had just been so munched and tweaked in all ways. So stoked that Carl kind of stepped in initially and put his hand up for it, because to be honest, I was looking at it going, it's probably easier to just get another door. He did all the hard work, I just picked up the end. Thanks, Carl. But yeah, it's nice to see, and it'll be kind of cool to try and match it all as well. So I probably should get this on level ground. Might roll the van forward and we'll stick the body down here and see if we can kind of get it to latch. So one problem area we do have is a crack that goes all the way down this way. And if I put my knee on it, it has a lot of flex, like almost 10 mil of where it's supposed to be. If I go like this, you can see it. So what we're gonna do, I'm going to straighten this all out, clean this little area up. We're gonna put a strap from here across to that one, pull it in to where it should be, and then we're gonna weld this. So I'm just gonna wire wheel the edge, then we're gonna strap it in. Hopefully we can get a little weld on it. So we've gone back to the future with Doc, and we're just kind of wrapping up this video that is probably a kind of a few steps behind the other one. So you notice there's patina. That is explained in the previous video. If you jump over to that, kind of how we did it. I was able to weld this up so there's no flex in the quarter panel anymore, which is really nice. And the door is on. This one still hasn't been welded along the edge. I did kind of mention that. And that is just want to kind of get everything fitting properly, and then I can kind of, there's still that little bit of flex in the door. So I want to make sure I get it in the right position before we kind of go around and spot weld that little lip on there that we use that tool to fold the edge over. So it was kind of really nice to do. I'm just, again, so happy that we even, you know, attempted the idea to try and fix this door, because it was like, personally, I thought it was too far gone. So it was really nice to get a kick in the butt from Carl and be like, let's do it. So the motivation was there, and we conquered it, which was really nice. So just neat to, you know, have that original door to the body. Hopefully, I think it is. Still lots to do on it. We're gonna have quite a few videos coming up in the near future on it very soon. Just waiting for a few more bits and bobs to show up, and start cracking into that. But there might even be another thing that somehow followed us home yesterday. And she's real pretty. Again, another 29 Roadster on an original set of 32 rails. And there's a good bit of gear here that we're gonna tackle. So another project for Bennett's. This is gonna be a pretty fun one. It's got a lot of history, especially for Western Australia, and it came from Steve and Zane, really good mates of ours, and we're super happy to be able to kind of be the new owners of it, and you know, try and fill the shoes that they had with this, and the amount of fun that they had as a, you know, kind of father-son project, or father car passed to son, and they did a whole lot of stuff with it. But that is all going to be for a whole nother video. We're going to give you the whole download and history on it, and what we're thinking we want to do with it. We'll kind of give you a breakdown of what's here, the way that everything's laid out. But we wanted to give you a little sneak peek of something really special. So I think this is going to be a really cool one. So as you can see, it's really starting to look like a hot rod shop in here. We've got a couple of Roadsters now. So we'll have a couple of twin Roadsters hopefully on the road in the near future, and get Kyle's coupe on the road too, which will be really nice. And but main thing right now is getting back on that Combi van. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Please like, subscribe, hit that notifications button. Jump over to our website as well. We still have some clothing and stuff up, and we do have 2 new t-shirts coming out soon, which is really cool. So we'll kind of wait a little bit for giving you a sneak peek on those, but I'm really happy about these ones. So peace.